Okay, we should be live now. Hey, everybody. Slightly Slanted Sleuth joined with Bill Langdon today. We're going to talk about all things spiritual and creation and how it all works. I'm trying to adjust his light real quick.
Yeah, we can't get any more light in here, man.
Yeah, it's all good. All that matters what we're talking about, not what we look like, anyway.
Yeah. I've got two big lights on already, and this is the best they can do. It's funny how you need so much light when you film things, you know.
Yes. What we're talking about, not what we look like, anyway. Hey, hang on. Okay. Yeah. So we got a couple people watching. So yeah, we left off yesterday. Sorry, I cut you off the way I did.
That's all right.
This platform software is way better than what we were using, but yeah, so
Definitely, yeah,
we shouldn't have any issues today.
Right. I actually watched back what we did yesterday in my lunch break today at work, and it wasn't bad. I got the impression yesterday that I hardly said anything, or I hardly got a chance to say anything, but there was quite a lot said, in fact.
So it wasn't me, it was just on my end then, is what you're saying?
No, I heard every time I faded out, you know, when as I was talking, I went to silence, and then it came back in a few seconds later or something, or half a minute later. There was a lot of that, but I know we missed a few bits and pieces. There was something I wanted to raise actually after yesterday's conversation. I didn't get a chance to complete what I was saying about it because it's really important that people hear this, I think.
Okay.
So maybe I should start with that. In fact, it's very brief. Yeah. At the end of yesterday's conversation, I mentioned somebody wrote to me under my YouTube video and said, anyone who says they know the truth doesn't know the truth, basically.
Yep.
As if nobody can, claim that they know the truth. And in my opinion, that comes from fundamentally the fact that God is ineffable and never-ending and infinite. So you'll never get to the end of God. Therefore, nobody can know God completely. Do you see what I mean? Intellectually, that's the principle of it. The fact that God is never ending, being your true self, but because it's never ending, you'll never get to the end of it. So you can't know God completely. And yet, if you only analyze this or have an intellectual view on that concept, and you haven't met God yourself, you won't realize that God is like a person as well. So you can say after you've met God that you do know God, as if you've met a person that you got to know.
But you don't physically see God when you meet him, right?
No, there's nothing to see physically. It's a very internal and very different experience to what you're used to. You're fully aware that there is a person with you, and when you merge together, you know that that's happening.
Okay.
Without doubt, there's no question. I was even questioning it as it was happening.
And did he or did God answer back and know what you were thinking, or
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. there's nothing there's nothing hidden.
Right.
Yeah, nothing at all. So what you think, you have a conversation naturally, but it's a very instantaneous sort of telepathic type conversation, but there are no voices. The words simply appeared in my mind, and I knew that was what was being said. And I responded, and then I got a response, so it was like an interaction as well.
That's interesting you say that. As you got closer to that culmination point or the completion of the great work, did you start seeing more things in that manner in like pictograph form or?
No, not at all. Not at all. I was looking for a well-rounded understanding of the completeness of reality and whether God existed or not. What our position in the cosmos is. What does it mean to be in it? What is the cosmos anyway? All this sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And I eventually found Walter Russell, who basically put it into perspective for me, because he has a very good grasp of it, Walter. And he gave me the concept of duality being something very important. And that's right. When I started to understand the idea of stillness and the dual opposites that link together. I was just starting to get my head around that, and I was prepared to go into that, and then it happened.
Yeah, I've heard that duality thing from several other YouTubers actually, but they
Really?
fall short. Yeah, they fall short of any further than that. They talk about the duality of our existence and what I'm talking like on the esoteric side, the hermetic side of alchemy. That
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that sort of perspective and how it's the friction of duality that is the creation's mechanism for what we are and what we create, right?
Right. Yeah, that's right. The yin yang
Yeah,
concept. You can't have one without the other.
right.
That's right. Yeah,
So yeah,
it's
wonderful.
the funny thing is about yin yang is that it's prevalent in the Bible as well. So I find it odd that any particular religion would reject any other religion because they're all trying to do the same thing, effectively.
Yeah.
They're all trying to tell you the same thing.
And is that in your opinion the biggest hurdle for humanity is to get over themselves and quit drawing lines in the sand? You know what I'm saying?
The thing that a person has to do is be honest with themselves. That's the simplicity of it. When you're totally honest with yourself, you question even yourself, and you step away from your own opinionated pride. Because people get very proud about their opinion, their intellectual gains and apparent achievements, but they haven't achieved anything. It's just an opinion. If it doesn't relate to actual reality, then it's completely pointless.
Right.
It really is useless.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of useless stuff in this world.
Well, that's like 98% of it's useless.
I'm afraid it is. I'm sorry to say that you would have thought we'd been developing all this time into something better and better and more intelligent. Yeah, gaining intelligence and expressing that and seeing that expressed, and how wonderful systems could be if we just used our intelligence. But the greatest hurdle of mankind is finance.
Yeah, money, baby. That's right.
Yeah, that's it. That's what controls everything. Unfortunately, yeah, it is money. It's
I
very
just had that.
simple.
I had that inconvenience of lecturing my son about money yesterday because he's all into the hip hop crowd, and
Right.
he just started high school.
Hmm.
So he was talking about how he could make more money and why don't I'm like, dude, yeah, if anything in this life I could just share with you is that money you can't you go out of this life with just as much if
Hmm.
you know as you came in with. And so on the physical sense, and I tried to get through to him. What would be your advice on what I could say to my child to get him, or am I asking somebody that's doesn't have a kid, so that's kind of have you thought
Yeah.
about something like that? What a father would tell
Well,
us.
I mean, I've never had children, but I've thought of what it would be like to have kids and what sort of advice I would give them, at different stages in my life. What exactly did you want to convey to him?
Well, that you can't take it with you when you go. So money's good and all
Oh, I
for
see.
our game and our what we're playing here, but you know
Yeah, yeah.
what matters more is the spiritual is what I wanted to convey to him.
Right, but I mean, if you take me for example, I didn't. I was looking for spiritual things, but I didn't like the airy fairy, and guys tend not to like that. For instance, the guys I was hanging out with were more into the magic and the Aleister Crowley and the Led Zeppelin
Yeah.
and the mystical cleverness. There was a lot of trying to be clever with the mystical. And it's right to think of it in terms of a great intelligence, because it is very intelligent, even if there are weird people like Aleister Crowley stepping in and showing their face, and he's not exactly the best proponent of it, I would say.
Right. I wonder
Yeah.
why. Because he's reported to try everything and anything under the sun just to see what it was, right?
Yeah, that's right. And on his deathbed, apparently, he said words to the effect of "what a waste of time that was," or something like that. Not those words, but something like "oh, I've sort of wasted my life," or something.
Because he fell short. Oh, and I got another question for you. What's your opinion on like Pythagoras, Plato, Plotinus, Aristotle? Do you think any of them guys created or completed the work?
I don't know. Funnily enough, you should say that because about 3 hours ago, I was cooking, and I was watching. I had a video on with Manly P. Hall talking about the pyramid and the initiation in the pyramid. And at one point, he said he thought Plato had been initiated in the Great Pyramid into the mysteries.
Yes.
When you read Timaeus, in Timaeus, there's a lot of discourse about and describing the creator, or the demiurge, as they call it, with the Greeks. The name demiurge is very prominent with the Greeks in general.
Yeah, they attach the negative more or less to the demiurge, right?
It depends. I found it depends on the writer. Some people emphasize the indifference of it, and some people emphasize the redemption that it offers you.
Right.
Because there are those two extremes, and that can confuse people greatly.
Well, because that's the truth, right?
Yeah, because it's a thing. It's the result of spiritual union, so it's a wonderful, present or product or child, as it were, and it's a thing, so it's indifferent as well, and it's formed and fixed just like that and can't be changed. Therefore, it has these two. It automatically has two sides to it, like Cain and Abel. Or Enlil and Enki. In my mind, the interpretation of those two brothers is that it is the two faces of Janus, the Roman version of the concept of the creator being redemption and devil.
Yeah,
at the same time.
And it's no coincidence that the mythos behind them is the stories told in a hierarchical fashion, right? Like there's Anu, and then there below him, which that would be the two principles of the light, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it does seem to follow that pattern. It seems as though God's always right with a certain pattern, because if you compare On the Origins, the Gnostic text, with Genesis, and even with Poimanders, they use very similar techniques, or the Enuma Elish. They use the same kind of structure. So there's always two brothers, and one's evil, one's good. Yeah, because they're male. In my mind, that is the demiurge. It's the two aspects of the demiurge. Like Janus is a male god as well. So that's the emphasis. Yeah, the male.
Familiar with Janus very much, but
yeah, and you can see how people would associate the evil of or the indifference of the creator with the male, because it's the male that goes out and causes war or fights wars. There's aggression, there's ego, there's pride, there's all this sort of thing that is associated with the aggression of a physical person. And of course, the demiurge has created that. So, and if that's the best that it can do, it must have had it in the first place, and that's the best of it. Therefore, it's not that great after all, is it? It's this sort of thing.
Right. Once you rise above the emotional state of it, right? Yeah, you're right. Completely right.
Well, funny, interesting you say that as well. The issue of emotion doesn't exist when you see it. When you're in the abyss, there is zero emotion. You can't feel any emotion because you haven't got your body. However,
we were right. We were speculating on this just a couple hours ago about this creation is so we can feel the emotion, right?
Well, there's the two extremes of love and truth. The love is the emotional content, the personal content, the connection you have with somebody that is emotional, I guess. It's feeling. It's
you get the good feeling inside you when
I mean, with God, that is elevated to an extreme, and it's so light. It makes you feel so light that you feel as though you have no body when you're like that. So, and that feels like pure love, but it's incredibly deep because it has no end. So that's the first experience is love. Then the second key to heaven, the second experience is the truth, which is indifferent. So there is zero emotion involved in that experience. You leave your body behind, you leave emotion behind, and it's purely visual, nothing more. An experiential visually, or spatially, if you like. It's a different experience spatially. Yes, but there's no emotion whatsoever involved in that. Even though I say that, I was jovial and sort of laughing to myself when I arrived because it was such a rush to get there. It's such an amazing expansion.
Sorry.
You just, that's right. You just feel like laughing, from the joy of it.
Like, I finally did it.
Yeah. I immediately said, so this is what infinite space feels like.
Right.
That's what I said to myself, and I was laughing about it. But even though I had no body, I hadn't registered at the time. I wasn't physically laughing. You know?
Right. Yeah. Okay. I talked to Aaron Price recently, and he said in his experience, he's seen the light per se, but anyway, he said that he felt like there was still time there. Is that how? Did you experience time at all, or did you have any recollection of time when you were in that moment?
You could say that I was. If I had to estimate how long I was there, then you could talk about how long it took, and that is a sense of having time or spent time in that condition. And it was about 10 to 15 minutes that I was there with the cloud.
Cool.
I would estimate realistically it was about 10 to 15 minutes. But while I was there, nothing changed. See, because it's an infinite expanse, there's nothing to change in there. There's nothing to say that there's time moving. And
Well, there's nothing except for you and the creator and the light, right? I mean, that's it, right?
The only thing that's changing is your position relative to the cloud, because you're examining it in different places and looking at it close up and getting away from it. You know, you're moving around, and that takes time, I suppose. But the environment itself is timeless.
So you had no sensation of repositioning. You just thought you repositioned and you were there.
Yeah. I intended to find out what it was.
Mm-hmm.
When you see it, the first thing you say is, "What is that?" Because you have no idea. I had no idea. So the first thing is that I moved instantly closer to it, about halfway towards it, and now I've got a closer view. Now I'm thinking it looks exactly like a cloud. I wonder why it looks like a cloud, because it can't be water vapor. So I want to go closer to it and look at it close up. And as I thought that, I instantly found myself in front of it without even thinking to move. I simply wanted to look at it close up, and there I was. So your intentions become an apparent movement or a change of position.
Cool.
Yeah.
In your opinion, do you think the cloud can like be a different shape, size, or object to somebody that's with a different mindset? Or
No, not at all. I understand why you might think that or ask that question, or why somebody thinks that there would be a slightly different experience for somebody else, but that can't be right. It's not possible, because this is where heaven and earth meet and become one. There is only one experience of it for any being in the entire cosmos. It's exactly the same. That's why it's always recorded in this in various forms, but in the same fashion.
right.
It's always the same, and the cloud always looks just like that. It's drawn in certain terms. It's associated with a boat, which is an elongation. It's described as a pillar of cloud, which is exactly what it is. That's exactly what it looks like, a long extension of cloud, like a pillar. And that's how it's described in Exodus. That I can show you countless references to it by others in the ancient past that confirm that it looks precisely like that.
Like a caterpillar, sort of. I'm kidding, man.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just messing around, just trying to lighten it up a bit. But yeah.
Yes.
So your opinion is that if you see the light, you're going to describe it. So why is it depicted as a lion and as a sheep then?
Right. Those are associations to link with or to relate to the physical experience that we think about. Don't forget. Yeah, don't forget that people, if they want to convey it to, if a god wants to convey this to someone who's not a god, how are they going to do that? Well, it's the creator of everything physical, which is kind of rough and indifferent and harsh, and severe. So they might want to think, well, if you encounter a lion, it's going to eat you,
Yeah.
And it's a harsh creature. It's ferocious, like the creator, but it actually looks like the head of a lion. The extension of cloud, because it's very fat at the back, and as it comes forward, protruding towards you, it gets thinner, so you can see all the way along its sides when you're in front of it.
Is it intimidating?
Yes, it is, but when I first turned around and saw it, because it was not even the last thing I expected to see, I was almost going to keep looking past it, as if it was a weird thing in the distance that I didn't expect. So let's go past that. Forget that. I'm looking for, yeah. I almost went past it, and as I saw it, I sort of stopped and thought, hang on a minute. I didn't expect to see that. Right, I'm going to turn away and not look at that for a second because I didn't expect to see that. I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's there. It's very bright and it's very big, and it's kind of ugly. It looked ugly, you know.
It kind of looks like a computer diode or a chip or something to me when you.
Yeah, and it's so weird because it looks precisely like a cumulonimbus cloud, which you expect to see in the normal summer sky, but it also has laser beams coming out of it. So that freaks you out a bit, and you think, what is going on? You know, so I turned away and looked away from it because I didn't want to look at it.
Funny you said that. I made a connection recently because I've been watching some of Ken Wheeler's stuff, you know, his older stuff, and how he talks about point source light. Right. Remember those lectures he's done? And
no, I haven't seen all of them.
Yeah, but he talks about, you know, I don't know if I don't think he's illuminated or anything, but he's pretty close. He's pretty smart. That guy's smart as a whip, and he's talks about the point source light, and that's laser beams, you know. And when you say the center of all things, that would be the point source, correct? Yeah, in a way, yeah, kind of. Yeah, the funny thing is when people talk about the cosmos and how it works, they never think that there might be a light next to it physically in the abyss. You know, that doesn't come into anybody's mind because they haven't fathomed that yet. So if it's at the end of the right hand of that cloud with, you know, the right hand beam that comes out, how exactly does that affect the scalar abyss to create the cosmos? This is where my mind has been at the moment. While I'm at work, I'm thinking about this, you know, and I'm looking for references to it, and I am finding them. Obviously, they're not modern scientific definitions, but they give you the sense of what is going on. Right. And it seems to be the very presence of that cloud in the abyss, which is a scalar field, a sea of potential. Just by being there, it makes a difference, and it has an effect on the scalar field. It shocks it somehow, as if it shouldn't be there at all, you know, but it is, and therefore there's going to be an effect. But I can't grasp why the cosmos would only be at the end of the right hand. Why is it there? Why is there not a cosmos at the end of every single beam? That's beyond me. But when you find that answer out, I'm sure you'll tell me. Yeah, I've been comparing it to a guy called Itzhak Bentov. I don't know whether you're familiar with him. He was a Czech guy. Yeah, I've seen a couple of his stories about him. Yeah. Right. His book is almost exactly the same as Walter Russell. It's very, very close indeed, and spoken in a slightly different way with different statistical analysis in it, you know, a different approach to the same thing. And in Itzhak's vision, he saw 49 cosmoses all stacked up one above the other. Like, what's his name? Penrose's model, right? The cone model of how the universe works in cycles. You're talking about the twister? Yeah, the twister, yes. Well, the twister is the solution to unifying quantum mechanics and general relativity. It's a way of unifying the very large with the very small. So yeah, okay, I thought it was the beginning and the end of the universes. No. But the pattern of it is highly significant because it's the same pattern throughout nature. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and that pattern reflects the cosmic cycle in general. And that cycle is just repeated fractally from the smallest to the biggest, right, in creation. Basically, it is. Yeah, that's the idea. Yeah, it's imagine two cycles out of phase with each other that are constantly going at different scales at the same time. However, there is an overall envelope to it that expands and contracts again. Yes, and that's what right now we're on the out breath. We're on the expansion. We're about a third of the way, a quarter to a third of the way into the life cycle of the cosmos. Yeah. And
because
so does entropy increase then as we get further on the out breath, and then it's at its culmination point when it's at the shrinking?
well, it according to Itzhak Bentov and Nikola Tesla, who's been apparently this is a bit out of left field, but my mum bought
I
me
know
a
what you're
book.
going to say already. You're going to bring up that person. That's yeah, okay. That's
Right,
all.
so apparently Nikola Tesla has been communicating with a medium in France, and the medium knows nothing about physics. So what is coming through is astoundingly accurate. And
Really.
he's actually giving us equations that she would know nothing about. So I'm very impressed by that
You
material.
gotta drop that name of the person that's communicating. I mean, is a person doing lectures or anything online?
No, they're not at all. It's a French book written by somebody called Didier. I can dig it out. I can go and find it if you want. It's in the next room
Well,
on the bookshelf.
yeah, you could, or you can just give it to me and I'll post it or something.
Yeah, sure. Okay, I'll give you the title. But it's a French book that's been translated into English.
Okay.
Okay, so and there's no lectures, there's no tour, there's no nothing. He's not on YouTube. He's not doing the rounds or anything. It's just a book.
Okay.
He normally writes books about miracles.
Human miracles,
Yeah, like miraculous healings at Lourdes and strange strange events. The unnatural is it or the supernatural if you like. He's like a supernatural or journalist.
do you
Yeah.
have an opinion on that sort of thing? You know, the supernatural stuff like that. Like sometimes miraculous things happen. Do you think that is for reasons that are beyond us, or do you think that's because they're part of some cog in the machine? You know what I mean by that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to be honest, I think any miracle like that is it could be the hand of God. It could because God is above everything, really, literally, and can literally do anything. So I think there's a lot in it because there's so much of it. Physics and science doesn't like dealing with it because it takes too much to explain. They haven't got there yet. They don't know about the underworld and the predicament of the underworld in terms of consciousness, because it is the mental plane as well. And mentality is foundational, whereas physical is not foundational. It's a product, it's a result of the foundational, which is more consciousness, and that shift in perspective hasn't happened yet.
And
So
do you think that shift is in tune with the out breath or the expansion of the universe, or is it a separate? You know what I mean by that? Does it grow
yeah,
with?
no, it doesn't have. In my mind, it doesn't have anything to do with that. There used to be gods on Earth thousands of years ago. There were many of them, and the Earth has been conditioned into a lesser state, and that's not natural. So that's been forced. Something has done that. Some force, some will has created that situation. So if we've gone downhill or downward to a downward spiral into ignorance. And we were better before, then it's not a condition of the cosmos.
Right. So you're saying maybe it's connected to the processional wobble or whatever. The great year. Do you think that it's like that on Earth? Total number of years, like every 6,000 or whatever it is, every quarter, where something happens to bring humanity down a notch.
I'm not so sure about that. There's the argument that it's a natural cycle, that when we will go back up, back into a golden age. But there's also the argument that there are creatures flying around in the cosmos that have selfish intentions, shall we say?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know whether you're familiar with the SSP.
Yeah, the secret space program. I've done a little bit of digging into that. Yeah.
Right. There are a few more people coming out talking about it, and I would like them analyzed by psychologists, because as far as I'm concerned, they're talking about real life experiences, and it's very difficult to assimilate that because we're so not used to it. We're not used to thinking that people from Earth have been going to Mars for the last 50 years. That is a freak out realization if it's true. Yeah. Because we live in.
Do you think it's possible? Do you think that? that SS?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. It is absolutely possible. Judging by the development of technology, when technology went from aeronautics to anti-gravity, you cannot give humanity on Earth in its state of ignorance anti-gravity.
So
You
you think
cannot.
that was for the better of the whole situation, not to expose us to that technology?
No, no, that's not the answer. In my mind, the answer is to educate people in the first place, and then they will mature quicker and be able to use anti-gravity in a mature way, because you have to be more mature than simply ignorant and childish and moronic, because most people on this planet, compared to what they could be, are complete morons.
Yeah,
I don't mean to be derogatory with that. I'm not saying I'm the most intelligent person on the planet. I'm just saying that if you're honest with yourself, you've got to realize that if you give a toy that has anti-gravity to a bunch of idiots, what do you think is going to happen?
right. I mean, do you think there's been intervention by these higher beings in like where they say aircraft have shown up at the nuclear facilities and stuff and shut the missiles down? And do you put any weight behind that or any?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I think there are cosmic gardeners overseeing everything. And when they can, without influencing your free will, they will deal with certain things because they look at the outcome and the result, and they can time travel. Yeah, don't forget, they are way beyond us, way beyond us.
Right.
But just think of a race of people that are billions of years ahead. Cosmic gardeners are way ahead of them.
Well, you by completing the great work, you're well on your way to that, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you become one with Brahman, which is the cosmic being. In other words, your body is now the eternal body that lives forever. That's the idea. So you swapped your physical body for the cosmic body that God has made. You know, Brahman. That is now your body, and you are an eternal being. You are part of that eternal concept and existence, as it were. But
So are you then the one that are the cosmic gardeners? Are they the one that keep the order in the chaos?
yeah, well, they're going to try and imagine a nursery full of children. You know, you have teachers in the nursery that guide the children. The children can do what they want within certain limits. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's basically the same scenario. A cosmic gardener is a teacher in a nursery, and the nursery is the cosmos. And it
Yep.
really is a nursery. It's a
Stick a milk in
nursery.
my mouth and change my diaper because I'm a baby.
But what are creatures going to become in this nursery? What are they in the nursery for? Well, they're burgeoning angels. A cosmic gardener is an angel, and an
Yep.
angel has total freedom. Oneness with God means they don't need to be supervised.
Nice.
Yeah, do you see what I mean? There's no, it's not a question that, oh, God has to make sure that his angels don't do the wrong thing. Well, it's not really like that. If you know the truth, that there's no need for you to be supervised because you've matured and you are responsible over it, you know, and you look after yourself and you look after those around you, and you behave in an associated way. It's automatic.
Well, and even helping out complete strangers and doing things for people without expecting anything is you're inevitably helping yourself because we're all one from one energy, correct? I mean, isn't that the way it is?
Yeah, but basically that's true. But I mean, everyone is on their individual path, you know, their own journey, and if you can help them on the way, then all the better. You don't want to walk it for them. You know,
Right.
I know the book I've written is like handing everything to people on a silver platter, but it's not really like that. It's just an overview of the esoteric world with the insight of having seen the light and knowing the eternal being. That's basically all it is. So I'm completing what people have been looking for in that work, and I'm showing it to them. But it doesn't mean they've got it themselves. It just gives them a glimpse. They may not believe it. It may be a bit of a shock. You know, there's all sorts of reactions. I've lost track of what we were talking about.
Well, even if you're in the hunt for that truth that you put out there on a silver platter, that silver platter, even as appetizing as it may seem to look, you
Mm.
want to eat it all, but are you going to digest it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing new about the content of my book either, because the stuff
Right.
in it has been around for aeons, for thousands of
Right.
years. It's right in front of you. It's in your face, but you don't realize you're being shown the cosmic relationship, the eternal being, that has been known before. You
Right.
don't realize it's literally everywhere.
Oh, and by the way, if you have something to share, or images or whatever, you can have at her. I mean, we're
Okay.
back home again, so
Yeah, sure.
I missed Zoom when I was without Zoom for the interview.
Yeah.
That was pretty frustrating. But yeah, you can
Cool.
share anything you like or whatever. But yeah, the whole putting pearls before swine bit is pretty much what it boils down to. I mean, you could throw knowledge at a wall and or at anybody, and it just depends on their level of understanding before it does anything.
Yeah. Yeah, not only that, but their interest as well. I mean, if you take the subject of mathematics, for example, most people don't like mathematics, so you have to want to do it.
Right.
Yeah. Same with the great work. Most people don't want to work on themselves because it's an effort, and you have to challenge yourself and stop, just trying to enjoy every moment. I heard today on the radio or wherever. That most people think of life as enjoyment and work. That's all it is. Nothing else.
That's pretty much the American dream, isn't it?
Basically, yeah, to indulge yourself. And then at the end of your life, you have absolutely nothing.
Sorry, I'm looking down at the chat, telling anybody if they have any questions, just put them in caps. So if anybody has questions, put it in chat, and I'll try to get it to Phil here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Do you what do you want to focus on anything in particular? Because I wanted to show you some stuff from Genesis, but did you get a chance to look at that write up I did on it out of interest? If you had any time.
A little bit of it. I didn't. And it was about a week ago, right? That you sent it to me.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. When you're talking about it, I'll be refreshed by it.
Okay. Is that okay? Hang on a sec, because I had something up earlier.
Whatever you want to do, buddy. I put it all in your hands, man.
All right. Well, I think it would help people recognize that there's a key to understanding the entire Bible. There is a unifying principle in the Bible. No matter where you are in it, there's a unifying principle that's used all the way through. It's like a key. And the cosmic relationship looks like a key. Do you remember a film called The Fifth Element?
Yes.
Do you remember the creatures at the beginning who turn up? They land in a spaceship in Egypt in the middle of the desert, and they go into this, this building where this priest is, and a man is trying to interpret the symbols on the wall. He's got a young kid with a reflector giving him light so he can see. And the priest that comes in, or one of the creatures actually, I think the priest has a key, and that key looks like the cosmic relationship. Where we are being shown many times in movies and films that I'm sure these directors are privy to this sort of information to some extent.
Do you think that could be? It's like the creation of Adam painting that Michelangelo did on the Sistine Chapel dome. Do you think just be in the all itself, and they think it's their thoughts and it's the mind of God that's actually working through them without them really realizing? You know what I mean? Do you think they could be working like that, or no?
Well, to be perfectly honest, if you recognize that God thrice great with the Son of God completing that is the basic pattern of everything, then that pattern is embedded in everything, and it's going to be embedded in our thoughts as well, or the structure of our psyche. Yeah, so we'll automatically, and of course, in the film industry, they have the idea of drama and script writing down to a T, and drama has to follow certain patterns, and that pattern is the same pattern as the hero story.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's what grabs us every time.
There's always 3 acts to a play. The beginning, where it introduces all the characters and you get to know them a bit so you can like them and relate to them. In the middle, they go through a trial that tests them. And in the end, it's resolved. That's the principle of the great work.
Yeah. And
There's
guy gets the girl at the end, right?
yeah. The marriage, the sacred marriage, is the union, the divine union at the end. Yeah, and you're the girl.
Yes, I realize that now. I learned that from you yesterday. Finally, that's like it's like how it's always there in front of you. Like you've repeated that same
Yeah,
scenario to me like 15 times, and it was
yeah.
that time that I finally understood it. It was like
Right.
that's why I was like floored, and you just like duh, because
Yeah.
I didn't really get it until yesterday. That part,
Right.
and I
Right.
thank you for that because it's real quick question. Menza wants to know what you think. Have you ever studied any of Tom Campbell's work?
Tom Campbell.
My Big Toe. He did a book about.
No, I'm not familiar with that author. No.
Okay.
What's the subject of what's his subject matter?
Esoteric and along the lines that you're talking about. He hasn't described it as in detail as you have, but he
Right.
describes the astral being in the light body and all that.
Oh, right. Okay. There's quite a few people who write about astral travel or astral beings or spirits they meet. I knew a medium.
Simulation theory is what his thing is. That's right. My bad,
Say
Ben.
again. Say again.
Simulation theory.
Simulation theory.
We're in a simulation.
Oh, I see. Yeah, basically, like we were talking about yesterday, the cosmos is just like a computer program running by itself. Yeah,
Right.
it's just an automatic. All it is the first four kingdoms. So you got the light in the abyss that making the minerals. But then there's a change, there's a shift in that cycle. There's another aspect, and there's a new cycle where it goes back to its origin, and this is where consciousness starts growing and coming into it. Yeah.
At the mentalism aspect of it, right?
Say again.
At the mentalism aspect of the
We end up with the mentalism. Yeah, the will that actually generates the perfection. Yeah. What a fascinating concept this is. I'm still blown away by it. What actually happened.
Well, it's pretty much the Allspark in the Transformer movies that they were looking for, right?
What's that?
Have you ever watched the Transformers movies?
No, not
they
seen
talk about the Allspark, and it was what these beings needed to continue their existence or whatever, or it could be used as a weapon. It was the all.
Oh, I see.
And that's why I always say Allspark, because that's in my mind. That's how I envision it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Right. There's a lot of that in films,
Right.
You're hearing about the truth in films a lot. I don't know whether you heard recently, but there was I think it was a Catholic priest in Poland, because my girlfriend is Polish, so she was in Poland recently, and the Catholic priest was burning Harry Potter books in public.
Why?
Condemning the esoteric.
Yeah, that's age old too, right? I mean, that's what they do.
They're stuck in the past in Poland, and perhaps in Europe in general. I think with this Christianity, and this literal interpretation of it, which is kind of childish. If it boils down, I would say it's childish to think of Jesus Christ as a real person who is walking around as the Son of God, because that makes zero sense. And it doesn't take very long to find that out. And it just makes me wonder, how come people don't, research this properly? Because it is actually explained in great detail. The Corpus Hermeticum explains in great detail, very clearly.
Yeah, that's because man has hijacked it in their own, I don't know, idealized, dogmatic manner, right? I mean, whether it was purposeful or not, it's man that has confused man himself.
Yeah. This is what happens if you give information that is highly coded and talking about things that you don't know about to you. You're going to just make up your own interpretation because you have nothing else to relate to it. And look, if you look around, all the pastors, the Christian pastors that are so fervent over this standard interpretation of the Bible, that you get the impression as someone who doesn't know very much about it, let's say in the congregation, that they must know what they're talking about because they look like they're confident. You know, they look
Right.
very, they come
Well,
across as
I have a cousin of mine he's a pastor, and he went through the whole, the whole schooling and all that, and he's
yeah,
a pastor at a church. And I
right,
haven't sat down with him with my opinion yet, and or my, because I want to know, if
yeah.
I can meet God and then go to him and talk to him, then maybe he'll believe me.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should look at the Garden of Eden, because this is a profound change in our appreciation of what is being told to us. In fact, that's just reminded me, I wanted to point out the concept of Nibiru
There you go.
as well, because I was thinking about that recently, and when I looked it up, I couldn't believe my eyes. The description of Nibiru, just simply on Wikipedia.
When you broke it down in that post you did, it was excellent, man, because I had pieces of it of what you put in there, but I mean when
Yeah,
you worded it just perfectly.
right. My goodness. I'm just going to call it up now. Won't be a second. I'm on the way. I'm going on to Wikipedia because I want to read you a couple of lines from it. Yeah. Okay. Right. That one. Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Can I read this out?
Go ahead. Yep.
Right. So Nibiru, also transliterated Nebaru or Nebiru, is a term in the Akkadian language translating to crossing or point of transition, especially of rivers, i.e. river crossings or ferry boats. In Babylonian astronomy, the term Nibiru refers to the equinox and the astronomical objects associated with it. So as you carry on reading the concept of Nibiru here, I've looked up Nibiru Babylonian astronomy. So if anyone wants to look it up themselves, they can read the rest of the page. It's on Wikipedia. It's astounding because it explains that Nibiru really is the Garden of Eden. It's the same principle as the Garden of Eden. It's the place where heaven and earth cross or meet. So it's the point of crossing. And the equinox that I've just mentioned there is an outer world symbolic reference to the finding of balance and perfection, which is the crossing of heaven and earth.
Oh, so that's why you kept referring to the equinox over and over again.
Yeah, that's right. So Nibiru is, I'm going to show you the Garden of Eden now. Hang on a sec. Yeah, so I'm going to show you my desktop.
Wow, I just put that together, the equinox. What's the nox part of the equal?
It's equal day, equal night. So I'm not
Nox,
sure exactly.
so does etymology break that word down, part of the word down at all for the layman? The nox part of equal or equinox,
Yeah, equinox. I'm not sure what the nox stands for specifically. I wouldn't know the translation of that point of that part of the word, but all we have to recognize that it's saying that equal day, equal night is that there's 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of night.
Okay.
So you're exactly halfway.
You're breaking up, buddy. You're breaking up. Try stopping your share for a minute.
I didn't catch that, dude. It was all broken. What was that?
Did you? Oh, because yeah, you were cut up. You were cutting up.
Right, I think it's because my laptop is overheating a little because it's sitting on clothes. So I've just moved it over to a fresh air, a bit of fresh air. So it's going to work normally now.
Right. Good.
So can you see my screen?
Sure can.
Okay, good. Okay. Let me just...
you need to have a block of ice handy for that thing, man.
Yeah, right. Like a bag of peas from the freezer or something.
Right.
Why am I calling that up? Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, okay. Where is it? Oh, it's gone. I see.
Nox means night. Noctis, nocturnal.
Ah, I see. Okay, great. Nice
People,
one. Thanks, guys.
people looked it up. Yep.
Hey, there you go.
There's the beauty of Google.
Yeah, right. Never used to be like that years ago.
No,
I was.
you had to write a letter and then wait 3 weeks to get a response.
Yeah, and I used to have to go to the library to try and find, esoteric books to learn something, and they had all the crappiest books you'd imagine. So I never got anywhere.
Right.
Okay, so I'm opening up some.
No wonder why your computer's overheating. You got so much junk on it. Holy cow, dude. Hello? Uh-oh, we might have lost Phil. Hello? Hello? Ella? Uh-oh, here we go. Hi, MCF. Nice to see you here. Jerry Runk, my man. Mr. Menza.
Hang on 2 seconds. Hang on.
He's getting the peas, guys. He's getting the peas to cool off his, Oh, there he is. Do.
Right.
What's up? What's up, Aaron Johnson?
Right, I've got my bag of peas.
He did too. That's what I was saying you were doing. That's funny.
That's the only way.
That's funny, man.
All right. All right, I'll share the screen. All right, can you see that?
Yes, sir. Cosmic awareness. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let's go down to Genesis. So here we go. This is it. That's it. Okay. Right. So let me take you down to here is. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's the totality that is being explained to you in the Bible and every single religion. Right there. There's the cosmic being, the light and the cosmos in the abyss, and that is separate or different to heaven. Heaven doesn't take up any space. It has nothing to do with manifestation. It's about being heaven. Yeah, being in completeness. It's dimensionless. So there's that distinction. So if we go further down, maybe we should just cover the first bit just to remind people. Is that your phone going or something?
Yeah, that was just my people are sharing our conversation, and it's coming through on notifications. So I appreciate that.
Okay. So in Genesis, what you're being told about, as I found out by examining it again recently in detail, is the process and moment of ascension, because ascension is creation. The end and the beginning are one and the same thing. So when it says now the earth was formless and empty, it means there's no cosmos, there's no earth. So it's describing the first moment of ascension when you arrive in the abyss, and the first thing you perceive is darkness. So darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That is you. Because you became one with God and you've expanded with God. You see, so now you are hovering in the waters of the abyss. So this description here is describing your experience of ascension in the abyss.
Aren't you the Spirit of God before you complete the great work, though, too?
Yes, indeed, but you haven't found definition while you're in the while you're engaged in the creation. It's to find definition. You can only find that.
So that's why you put the pyramid analogy forth in the clay bricks, pyramid cap, diamond.
Yeah, because you're thrown into an abyss and you have nothing, basically. You only have your body and yourself, and your laboratory, your alchemical laboratory is your body. So you work on yourself. The greatest work is spiritual wisdom. So the greatest work is up here, and you become someone who lives more in sattva, as Krishna calls it. Sattva is mindfulness, or being more mental, thinking more. The more you think, the more you understand. The more you understand, the better you become, and the more you transform and turn into your highest self. See?
Living from the heart is just as important, is it not?
Yeah, that's part of it. Your heart and your mind are both going at the same time. But if you only live in your heart and it never rises to meet the wisdom in the head, you are not making the connection.
Okay.
They have to work together. There is male and female. Yeah.
So that's the yin and the yang, and another aspect of creation.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So after that initial reference to your experience of being in the abyss and literally hovering over the waters yourself as the Spirit of God, as it's describing, because you've already joined with God, or re-merged with God, and now you've expanded together as a single person or a single spirit. So you are the Spirit of God in a sense, you know, without the egotistical connotation, because people tend to think in terms of individuation when they think about these things. You know, is it me or is it God? Well, you become one. So there's only one being now. So you are the Spirit of God hanging over the waters.
I am, right? I mean, the I am.
The I am is the light.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, specifically. That's the I am. That is the Son of God who is the I am.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so all I've done here in the writing is explaining what I've just explained to you verbally. So it then says, and God said, let there be light, and there was light. So now you're hearing about the light. So the first thing you do is look into the abyss. You recognize it's black and it's infinite space. And then you turn around and you see the light. So the light is the second thing that happens. And that's exactly the sequence that we're seeing in Genesis. So Genesis is recounting ascension as creation.
The actual act of what you went through and experienced.
Yeah. It's the act of creation. The infinite pulse that you expand as is God expanding from you, with you, showing you how to do it, or you are one together anyway. So you're doing it together, or you're doing it as one being. Yeah, it's automatic, really. You don't have to make an effort to expand. You simply understand the oneness of duality, and the expansion happens by itself. Okay. Yeah, a little issue because it keeps saying when it talks about the days of creation in Genesis, it keeps saying then there was the first day and the first evening, the second day and the first night, or whatever. It's constantly referring to duality, because everything manifest is dual. Even the light with the cosmos, that is a duality. The light and the abyss is a duality as well. So every aspect and form of manifestation is dual fundamentally, because without duality, there's no relationship and no process and change and development. Yeah.
There has to be friction for there to be a spark, right?
Basically, yeah. It takes two to tango, you know. You can't tango alone. You know what I mean?
Right. I've got a question from Gary. He asks, do you have to astral project to be here, or can one be here in a lucid dream? And I don't know what he means by here, but...
Is he talking about the abyss?
I think so. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe he can elaborate.
Yeah.
But then we have another question from Menza. He asks, where is it? Is there a cosmos at the end of each light beam?
Well, that's what we were saying earlier. Apparently not. There should be a unique cosmos. But that's another subject, a whole subject that could open up, you know, where you might argue that every beam does have it. But how come I didn't see any cosmoses or anything at the end of any other beams? They were all vacant. They simply faded to black, and that was it. And the cosmos is also spoken of and shown in depictions, as I'll show you in a second, as being unique. So it's uniquely a cosmos at the end of the right arm of this creator light. Another reason I say that is because very often in the ancient myths, they talk about the creator having a club and clubbing Tiamat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in the Enuma Elish, he raises his club and smashes her head open.
Mm-hmm.
That's that. So there's only one club, and the club is his right arm. So his right arm is smashing open the abyss and creating a cosmos that expands and contracts there at the end of his right arm. So there's a lot of emphasis in these texts that the cosmos is at the end of his right arm, which is acting like a club.
Right. And
Yeah.
yes, Gary was talking about the abyss when he asked, do you have to astral project to be there, or can you do it lucid dreaming?
Right. I would suggest that, in my own opinion, lucid dreaming is well. Let's recognize first of all that the abyss is the mental plane. It's referred to as the mental plane as well. If you want to distinguish that from the astral plane, okay. But really, I think that the mental plane is the foundation of consciousness to do with the cosmos and to do with creatures. So it gives them a foundation that is not heaven. So there has to be a separation in order for there to be a reconnection. So there is this distinction and separation. I'm waffling now. I'm sorry about that.
No,
I'm
that's
just
all right. I'm just confused on is the cos or is what we create in our mind when our pineal gland blossoms. Do we create the duat? Now, what's the difference between duat, underworld, and cosmos?
right. The underworld is another word for the abyss, which is
Okay.
infinite space. It's called the
Okay.
underworld, the abyss, or Hades. It's also referred to as Hades
Yep.
in ancient texts, like the Greeks call it Hades. The cosmos is a tiny speck in that infinite abyss. It's a tiny little grain.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And how big is the light? Well, the cosmos is like a grain of sand to a massive cumulonimbus cloud as the creator light. That's their relationship. Even though I show the cosmos as being quite a large egg, it's really much more like a little grain.
The mustard seed, right?
Yeah, basically, it's kind of like that. Yeah. So the whole cosmos is now just a tiny little speck, and you are looking at the outskirts of it, out into the abyss that it's in. So
So
you
it's sort of like conceptualizing the circling or squaring the circle in essence. That's the principle. I mean, that's how you can look at it too, right?
I don't know how you'd relate it to that exactly, other than to say that the great work is about squaring the circle. And
Oh,
when
okay.
the whole point of squaring the circle is when you make a square, it's measurable, and you can
Yes.
then define a center. Because defining the center is the whole point of this exercise, in the sense that if you come from the ineffable, which is infinite, there is no center and no definition as a result of being ineffable. So the principle that we're going through here is finding definition and becoming awake to our the full potential of our being.
Okay. So, yeah. So I misunderstood that whole concept until just now.
Right. Oh. There's more to say on what that guy was saying about the abyss, about lucid
Sorry.
dreaming and astral projection. I guess you could say that if you astrally project, you are immersing yourself in the nature of the mental plane, which has also a dual nature in itself. Because if you meet another being in that plane, that is a real being. You can generate scenery for yourself in the mental plane that is not real, but seems real. Okay, so there's it's a bit like this distinction on Earth, in the sense that you and I are intelligent individual creatures, and we're not just the minerals that make us up, but all around us is a world full of made out of minerals, which is not sentient as such. Yeah, it's not a thinking being. It's just stuff that's just sort of lying around. There's a distinction between a real person who you can interact with and the material around you. And I would associate that in a sense with the mental plane as well, in that you can create scenery. But if you meet someone else, that is a real person you're meeting.
Hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because there's lots of people in the underworld that they don't want to reincarnate.
Oh, really? They just like being there.
Yeah, they just like being there, and that they've created their, their nice environment, and they like it, and they just carry on, and they don't want to know about the tough experience of life that will teach them to ascend.
Is that in essence the duat as well? Is it the same as the underworld, the duat?
Right. The duat is the night sky as a portion of the underworld. In a sense, but if you realize that your inner mind space inverts itself and expands immediately out to fill the infinite void, because it is the mental plane, you are becoming one with the mental plane. Therefore, the duat is outer space when you join it, when you become one with it.
At that moment.
Yeah. So what normally would appear in your mind's eye when you're thinking, if you're in regular life, when you're in the abyss, it appears outside of you.
It manifests.
Yeah. So in other words, you can generate whatever scenery you want. The only problem with that is you cannot learn anything from the abyss. Nothing. You learn nothing. You do not develop or accumulate, or nothing is happening. Nothing's changing. You're stuck.
And you can like you said, people can stay there forever. I mean, what's up with that?
Well, no, they get visitation and pushes and little prods and nods to say, look, you need to go back in. You're being silly now. You smoke too many cigarettes now, and you've had too many drinks.
So we're pretty much faced with the same trials and tribulations there as we are here. I mean,
no, because it's whatever you want it to be. So you can make it your own little paradise, which is all, it's all fine and nice. But after a while, you're going to get bored.
So Valhalla, all of them stories of all these ancient cultures that talked about like the 72 virgins and all that stuff, it's all true. Right?
Well, if you say it like that, it sounds like... If saying it like that makes it sound like it's standardized and that you get, this number of that and that number of this.
No. I meant by whatever you think heaven is, it therefore becomes, that because you create it in your mind before you're even there. You know what I mean by that?
A lot of people think they have found heaven because it's whatever they want it to be. But it's not. It's the abyss, and it's an illusion as well.
Yes. In your opinion, is this life an illusion to us?
Well, it is an illusion in the sense that it's transient. It's not eternal, so it doesn't last. So it's just something that's just passing, and it's just a means to an end because of that nature. It's heaven you're supposed to be finding, which lasts. It's eternal. Heaven is the perfected state of being.
Gary says if this stuff was taught in school, he would have paid attention.
Yeah, I would have done as well.
Ain't that the truth? Hallelujah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember where you were at here. I'm sorry if I sidetracked you with the questions, but I appreciate your answer.
That's all right. No worries. Well, where were we, man? Oh, do you want to go back to the text?
It's up to you. Whatever you want to do.
Okay, yeah, I think we need to go down here because we did the duality thing that they keep referring to in Genesis. Every day of creation, they refer to the day and the night. So they're saying there's duality there. There's duality in that kingdom and in that kingdom, and every kingdom has duality.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a really good one. Then it goes on and says, so we've established in Genesis that there's this infinite darkness. It's called the abyss or the underworld or Hades, and there's a light in it. And now it says, and God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate water from water. So the separation of waters can be seen at this level, at this scale, between the cosmos is made from the material or the scalar potential of the abyss. So it's a product of the abyss. It's a roiling and broiling motion of, if you like, of the cosmic ocean. And it's a development. The cosmic ocean around it remains in its original state. So you have a separation between the waters. There's the waters of the cosmos that is developing, and there's the waters of the ocean of chaos around it, which is the abyss, which remains. So you have these two waters. Yeah, that's at this scale. You can also apply it in the cosmos, because in the cosmos you have galaxies doing what the cosmos is doing as well. But they're showing you the whole process as their structure. The cosmos does not look like a donut. It doesn't have the structure of a galaxy. It's an expanding, it looks like a lung, if anything, you know, like or a cosmic web, a spider's web, and then it shrinks back down. So it doesn't look like a torus or a donut, but it pursues or follows the concept of the torus, the process that the torus represents.
How far does it shrink back down to one singular point?
Well, I mentioned earlier Itzhak Bentov and Nikola Tesla, who has been communicating through this medium supposedly, and both of them have said exactly the same thing. They say the entire cosmos comes from basically a white hole.
Wow.
To me, that when they say it comes from a white hole, I'm thinking immediately that's the end of the right arm of the Creator, the end of his right hand.
Wow.
That is a white hole. And they also refer to it as a white fountain, which is very interesting because the Creator light is also known throughout the book of Revelations as the waters of life.
Wow.
As if it's as if it's a fountain in the middle of God's garden, you know, like a fountain you have outside a big house.
Wow, no wonder why people just reject this sort of thing, because what you just said right there is that it comes from our cognitive understanding of it, because we create that, right?
We do create it, yeah. It's created because of the shape of our pineal gland. That's why it has that specific shape. It always has the same shape because of that. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So there's the issue. First of all, we hear about the abyss, then we hear about the light, and then we hear about the cosmos. That is the basic setup of physical reality. And we've already got there in the first 6 verses of Genesis. So Genesis really gets to the point. You know, it doesn't waste your time.
What in Genesis, the word is God, God is the word. What does that exactly mean?
Oh, you're talking about the Gospel of John?
Yeah.
Right, at the beginning of the Gospel of John, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God.
Yes, that John, my bad, yeah.
That's all right. That statement is like saying God is thrice great, because he's referring to the truth 3 times. The Word of God is the truth, and the truth of God is the Logos, or the truth with flesh, which is the light, the Son of God, the Creator. So he's referring to the Creator light in terms of God thrice great. So you're getting the whole picture in one sentence, the fundamental pattern that's repeated over and over again.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what John does. It is very, very poignant, the Gospel of John. And then it says, and he was with God in the beginning. And the reference to he is the reference to the light. The light is there first. That's the first thing that happens when you ascend. The light is produced from the center of your head as you expand out from there.
Yes.
So the light is number 1. Yeah, the abyss comes second in these terms, in this sequence. But the text in Genesis is talking you through the moment of ascension by saying first it's the abyss. That's what you see first, because the light is behind you and you have to turn around.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. You keep saying that you have to turn around. What is that? What do you mean by it? I mean, what is the concept behind it? Because I know it's more than just you turning around. What is it? What does it mean?
It turns out that when you expand out, when you arrive, or you get the sense immediately that you're not moving anymore and you're surrounded by this infinite void, you are literally looking in the opposite direction for some reason. I don't know why. It's just the way it is, I guess. And it's very funny that it's like that, because I actually flew up and out what I would call backwards, as if somebody behind me or above me and seemingly behind me grabbed me and pulled me up into space, as if I went. Yeah, it was kind of like that, as if you've been flung out of your body in the wrong direction.
Wow, that must have been insane.
Yeah, and then when you stop moving, you're looking into pitch black, you know, and then you turn around. I had to work out how to turn around, and that's what it keeps saying in a lot of these texts. In the Book of Revelations, in 1:12, I think it is, it goes on to say that I turned around to see the voice that was speaking to me. So it's specifying that you have to turn around to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta turn around to see what's right in front of you, right?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of pantomime as well. You know, when the bad guy comes on the stage and he's behind the hero. So the hero at first can't see him. And everybody in the audience starts booing and hissing because the evil guy is now on the stage. And everybody goes, he's behind you.
Nice.
That is mimicking this moment. I swear it. I'm sure it is. It's just embedded in our society everywhere. All these little moments and little aspects of it.
I don't know if you answered that question. We kind of got misled at that point.
Yeah.
About what's your opinion on that? Do you think it? Oh no, you did say it was the act of God, or maybe God's doing it, right? I mean,
what do you have to turn around?
No, like the painting on the Sistine Chapel dome, you know, Michelangelo, and like lyrics and songs, you know, it's rife throughout everything.
Yes, it is. It is, especially in the Renaissance period. I can, and the Dutch masters, the paintings of the Dutch masters, all these people knew about this fundamental pattern of God thrice great because they embed it in their paintings all the time. And they're all black, white, and red. Every single Dutch master painting is black, white, and red.
Right.
It's like, what?
Right.
Do you know any other colors? You know,
what are those colors called? What do you call them?
Black, white, and red.
What are they? Emblematic of or symbolic of?
Well, the black is the blackness of the void or the abyss.
Yes.
The white refers to the light, literally, and the red refers to its symbolic color because it's thought of mostly as a slain lamb that is bleeding. So it has a symbolic association with the color of blood, which is red. So you have three colors in the abyss in association with the situation of the light, which is the blackness, the whiteness, and the redness.
Okay, cool. Is the blood red moon, is that why there's so much emphasis put on that? Is that, in your opinion?
Yeah. Let me show you something very quickly about the eclipse as well. I'll show, where is it? Okay, it's the other one. The moon turns blood red. Can you see that? I've got the Wizard of Oz up here at the moment.
Yes, sir. A lot of people I watched that movie over and over in my childhood, and a lot of people refer to it in the, you know, what message it was trying to convey, and I never even realized that when I watched it over and over and over again.
Right. It's pure symbolism, the Wizard of Oz. Everything in it is poignant and meaningful. Everything, every detail.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Jerry Runk, likes to reference that movie a lot.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. It's like a source material film, a bit like the Lord of the Rings. There's a story that a lot of different storytellers drew from, you know. Even J.K. Rowling with Harry Potter is drawing from, you know, the Lord of the Rings, the lore of Lord of the Rings and all that sort of stuff. Can you see the eclipse here?
Yes, sir.
Right. So on the left, the strange looking thing in front of the light is the cosmos. So we're looking at as though the cosmos represents the moon eclipsing the light in this particular view, as if you're now behind the cosmos.
That is just insane, Phil.
Yeah. And then of course we have the cross made here, and there's the cross with the light. You know, it's an effect of the light. Okay, fine. So it's just an artistic thing, but it's a nice little match.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and of course the sun and the moon are gold and silver. They're the keys to heaven. When they join together, when you join the heart with the mind, everything comes and becomes one. So it's symbolic of ascension as well. But the moon turns blood red. The moon is white, so they refer to it as in reference to the light, which is white. You know, and in terms of Thoth, in terms of the feminine, so in association with the moon. And of course the white is red because it's bleeding, so you have the symbolic telling of the idea that the moon is going to be turning red. even though it does physically do that in our night sky sometimes. Of course, people want to interpret all these things literally all the time, but that's not what they're referring to. And then they end up coming out with dates and, suggesting that these dates are important when they're not. This is just a natural phenomena that the moon might be red one night or it's eclipsed or whatever. It's just a reference.
Okay.
But
in your opinion, eclipses are significant, right? I mean, solar eclipses.
Well, you're talking about timings there, right?
Well, I don't know. You've referenced it numerous times to me, and I don't know if you're, you know what I'm talking about.
I'm being symbolic. I'm being purely symbolic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you get into the timings issue, the fact that there is natural timings, the lunar cycle, the solar cycle, etc.,
right.
That goes into astrology and a whole different ball game. It goes into predictions, what do they call those? Prophecy, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
Certain things come around, and we are at the end of the age of Pisces, going into the age of Aquarius, and that's significant. So the Earth is going to change anyway, naturally, because of that. It's psychological, I guess. That we go in these stages, have these plateaus. We have the whole human race develops as well as individuals.
Okay, sorry about that. And I had my wife calling.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I follow you. Did you ever think about why the foot's outside of the painting, or did you answer that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's quite an old motif. You'll find that in tarot cards as well. 1 foot on the land, 1 foot in the ocean, for instance. They really hear the concept of having 1 foot in, 1 foot out. To me, is like saying one foot is in the finite, 1 foot is in the infinite. Yeah. So the infinite is spiritual, the finite is physical. So of course that's the Son of God, and the Son of God has come from the spiritual. As the physical creator, it has both aspects in it at once. So 1 foot is in, 1 foot is out, but it's the same person. Sorry, not a person, but it's the same thing. Right. So that depiction there you see of Christ with the compass, one of the compass, notice from our orientation is the right hand beam that goes to the center of the cosmic egg in the right hand depiction with Jesus there. Yeah. You see, to our orientation, it's on the left, the compass point on the left, but that would be his right from his perspective.
Oh, wow. And it's longer than the one on the left. I mean, in the visual ray, right?
If you look at the depiction on the left-hand side here, this is the right-hand beam of the light.
Because it's, yep.
And that's the one that the cosmos is at the end of. And that's what we find here.
Oh, wow.
You see? It's the right hand. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
There's lots of little details that correspond like this. I'll show you another one, actually, that's really weird. I think you've seen this one before.
Well, I've probably seen them all, but I just probably don't understand them. I like this one that you just showed. I didn't really get it, until just now.
Right. So the Son of God is walking on water because the light has two extended beams coming out of the front by themselves, that if you look at them in this orientation are now legs, and that light is the Son of God. So the Son of God is literally walking on the waters of the abyss.
Yeah, I understood this one, and it put it all together for me about Jesus walking on water.
Yeah. And the cosmos becomes the boat or the ark, the idea of Noah's Ark. When I've shown Noah's Ark, you might have thought I'm saying that the light by itself is Noah's Ark, but the light is Noah, and Noah stands in his boat. He is in his boat, and the boat is the cosmos. Noah is that light. Noah is the Son of God as well. It's just another way of referring to him.
And that's why he's described in the manner he's described in the Bible. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, his eyes are like the rays of the sun, because they literally are. Basically, they're beams of light. Right. Yeah. So
it's just crazy that all this is there right before us, and
Yeah.
It's so convoluted that man has just confused himself just to make himself feel important or something. I don't know what it is, but I, it's just crazy.
Right. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah.
Go
So,
back to that Abzu one and explain that one now.
oh, here, this, which one? Hang on.
The Abzu and the I think it was
Wait. No.
right there. I think.
Hang
No.
on. Wait. I think it's, oh, here we go. Here we go. This one.
Yep, that one.
Yeah. Okay. So
Because
let's,
everybody tends to think that Tiamat was a planet, and where Earth is part, was born from Tiamat. In that manner. You know what I mean? The physical sense.
yeah. Let me show you something very briefly in those terms, and then we can relate to it. If I
Okay.
show you, if I show you this, these aspects of royal regalia, you can see that the king is holding what amounts to a club. It's a scepter in his right hand.
Wow.
It's like holding the club of Vishnu, or the club of Kingu that smashes Tiamat's head open. You see,
Yep.
the king is wearing white and red to suggest that he has become one with the divine child, which is the light. He's holding the divine child's right arm in his right hand as if to suggest that he's become one with the light. Do you understand?
Yeah. Do you know what the concept behind kingship and all that? What's your opinion on all that?
It became very obvious that anyone who is illuminated is a king, is royalty. Illumination is royalty, period. So there can be no such thing as a royal family because if I have children, they are not gods. They have to do the great work individually, personally, to become a god. So there's no such thing as a royal family. There can only be individuals who are royal or considered royal.
When kingship was first established on Earth, was it like that or no?
Well, it was very messy because, in my opinion, people came to Earth from Mars who are much more developed, and they were gods. They came to Earth, and on Earth at the time, in my opinion, were lesser developed individuals who are more like the tribal type people that we see who are indigenous to the planet Earth. And it was a shock. So they would have had tribal chieftains on Earth, and maybe not royalty. Maybe they hadn't got to ascension yet. Maybe they hadn't developed that far. I don't know. I'm not an expert historian, but it looks to me like people from Mars are the people who introduced the real nature of a god to this planet, because they were already gods from Mars. So
what do you say about the DNA hacking aspect of that? What you just said there.
Yeah. So they would have. I would have thought that they would develop some of the indigenous creatures on this planet to help them in whatever they were doing for themselves. So the Anunnaki concept of coming to Earth and making slaves to mine gold and all this sort of thing has some basis in truth.
Right.
But unfortunately, a lot of the interpretations of the Babylonian text that Zecharia Sitchin has done is bent towards the ancient astronaut concept rather than the proper symbolic translation or interpretation, and then dealing with the ancient astronaut aspect. Because in the ancient astronaut scenario, you've got all sorts of nonsense squashed together. You've got all sorts of stuff to do with illumination and gods squashed together with ancient astronauts. And because people don't know the distinction between those two, they're not getting what these texts are really telling them.
Cool. I've got a question from Gary. He said, did you alienate the people around you when you were doing the great work, or were you able to balance the quest for the knowledge and your social life?
Oh man, there's so much to say about that. Yeah. That's a 2-hour talk in itself. I mean, we're talking about 30 years worth of time here, and you do change, you transform, and you become less able to sustain normal friendships because the things that well, not, people who don't do the great work, the things they want to talk about and the things they think about
Is
are not.
nonsense.
It's just not the kind of stuff that is in your head. So they can't relate to you if you open up about it.
Right. And you feel like you're talking to toddlers when it's incredible.
You can't, not always like that.
I'm not talking about my family. I'm talking about like friends that are ignorant
Yeah.
and they want to stay on the political thing and all this. You know what I mean? Like that, about that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, it's just a difference of focus. I had a focus on that. They have a focus on this.
That's probably a better way.
We might meet about a certain subject and talk about that subject, but beyond that, I can't talk with them, that sort of thing. There's plenty of people I've met who I've got on with straight away. There's all the normal aspects of life. You do interact in a normal way anyway, because you realize that nobody else is doing the great work and they couldn't give a damn about it. They don't even know what it is. So around you is normality, and you get on. I've just got on with that anyway, because I realized that I can't introduce this stuff into the normality around me, because it won't accept it.
And that's a hard pill to swallow when you realize that.
Kind of. I don't know. I always felt like I had not physically, but spiritually, I always felt like there was a very comfortable truth sitting inside me that all I had to do was unravel. So I've always felt very comfortable within myself and confident about that for some reason. So I never really felt put out. If I didn't get on with people, it hurt me when I was young, but less and less so as I got older. It didn't bother me so much.
Yeah, I've learned to not try to push any sort of doctrine or belief on anybody. And
yeah, I tend to bring it up in regular. If some people like talking about interesting stuff sometimes, so I'll bring it up in little bits and pieces and see if they bite, and see what they know, and see how they appreciate what I'm saying and how I'm saying it. I don't want to sit there and say, you need to accept what I'm saying, otherwise you're a prat. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't work. You're dealing with a human psychology, and you need to respect other people as well, and the fact that they take their time and their own time to do things, so that there's the learning of respecting others in this sense as well.
Well, and you have to, would you agree that you have to come to the understanding that if not this time around, maybe next time, I mean, they'll always have a shot and they're always going to have that shot, right?
Yeah, but when you factor in the idea that a lot of people, when they find the underworld, if they die and they're able, if they haven't committed any terrible sins or problems in their life, then they're free to explore the underworld and come back when they feel ready. So how long are they what do they need to do? How long is it going to take? It's down to every individual what they do and how they approach it and whether they even bother with it. It's up to them. But all they're going to have is the underworld and incarnation. There's no heaven for that person. There's no achievement. There's no completion. There's no moving on. After a while, there's going to be a sense inside that they have to find divinity within them. It always comes out because it's the fundamental.
I have this nagging thought in my head, and have for some time now, that I think I was there and I got bored with it, and that's why I like being here. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, are you talking about being bored with the underworld?
Yes.
Right, you would get, because it doesn't develop you in any way, shape, or form. Even though it's heavenly in the sense that you have whatever you want whenever you want, it doesn't help you. So it's almost like what's that thing? One man's heaven is another man's hell. No, I think that's not quite the right thing. When people go to a desert island, they imagine that it's paradise and that the paradise is outside of themselves. This is a big misunderstanding with people. If you feel terrible inside yourself, it doesn't matter where you are. You're still going to feel terrible. So it's within that takes the focus. Paradise is found within. And so it doesn't matter where you are when you find paradise. So you are always in paradise. It doesn't matter where you physically are anymore.
Well, in a physical sense, this physicality that we're in, I mean, it's just a tool for us to find our divine self, correct?
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And without it, you wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, without the changes that occur in the physical world, the automatic is based in the truth. So it's your teacher. So you're supposed to be learning from your environment, the natural environment. You know?
And technology has thrown a monkey wrench into the whole works, has it not?
It kind of does, yeah, with the emphasis on new and better. Nature doesn't pursue that concept of new and better all the time. It's already perfect as it is in its own sense. And it's the teacher. So if you remove nature or make it second best, your teacher is now new and technological and machine-like. You know, that the personal nature is gone. There's no personal relating.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I was when I was working for Comcast when the digital revolution happened. I used to make wisecracks that Google's the new God. Well, you know, and I didn't literally mean it, but people were
Right.
like, you know, you're pretty much right in the technological sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Got
I
all the
mean,
answers there.
yeah.
You know,
It's useful if people can find good information. Yeah, yeah. But Google is full of crap as well. You know, it's like 90% crap, isn't it? It's just going to waste your time.
yes, it is. I mean, whenever you go on and search for something, you got to muddle through like 15 things to get to what you want.
Yeah, that's right. And with everybody interpreting the same kind of text in the same kind of way, you've got nothing else to compare it to. Yeah, so you're going to go along with whatever they say.
Right.
So yeah, let's go back to Abzu. Here we go. Tiamat is salt water. In the Enuma Elish, they describe Tiamat, who roared and smote in the original, in the primeval ocean of chaos, or words to that effect, in the sense that she is the cosmos who is developing from the ocean of the abyss. And Abzu is her child, her lover, and the leader of her host. Do you remember those expressions?
Yep.
Yeah, so all three of those are associated with the light. It's her lover. Look at them. There's only two of them in the abyss. They're making love with each other. You see?
Yep.
She is at the end of his extension. So it's almost like a man making love to a woman.
Sorry, I got my wife texting me now.
Okay.
But yeah, the extension of repeat what you just said there. I'm sorry, buddy.
That's okay, man. The right arm coming out of the creator is almost like it can now be thought of as an extension or a phallus making love to Tiamat, who is the cosmos at the end of his arm. Yeah.
Right.
So the light is her lover. It's her child because it's produced by the cosmos. We produce it, and we're in the cosmos. While we're in the cosmos, we produce it. So it's the child product of the cosmos. Obviously, God is involved, but you know they're talking about the fact that it's her child, and focusing on Tiamat in the description. And it's also the leader of her host because he is the first and the eighth king in the kingdoms. So he's the leader. He's the what do they call him? King of the gods. Yeah, King of the gods. Is that a scratchy arm?
Yeah. Yeah, my back itches. That brings up the point that everything other than God is female, and the truth is, and God is the male, right? I mean, can you touch on that concept and how that creates our creation?
Yeah, that is nothing more than a human relating concept to say that God is male and everything manifest is female. It's just a way to relate to it so we can link and think, well, male and female are opposites and they link together like yin and yang. So our immediate surroundings gives us the same principles. So we use them to relate to higher principles that you can't literally see or immediately see or know about. That's basically all.
And it's pretty much why the Bible is worded the way, or ancient script is worded the way it is in allegorical form, right?
Yeah. So you can relate to it. Yeah, that's right. I mean, God has no sex. There's no male or female. Spirit is not male or female. It's just spirit. It's one thing only.
And
So
is that why there's always reference to androgynous beings that were first on Earth, in your opinion?
no, I think that is well. There's a lot to say there. We'd need to go into the text on that, and I wouldn't want to give you a simple sentence in
Okay.
response to that. You know, I wouldn't want to do that because it would throw people off, maybe, or make them think there's only that interpretation. We'd have to go through that text, that portion.
Right. It's got to be getting late there, huh, bud?
It's 20 to 10.
Oh, what time? What time are you usually in bed for work?
Well, I don't need to go to bed too early tonight because I don't start till 8 o'clock in the morning, and I only need 6 hours sleep as a minimum.
That's
Uh,
all I ever sleep is 6 hours.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy with 6 hours. But I've had 3 nights this week where I didn't sleep at all, and just strangely, I got up in the morning and I felt okay.
Why weren't you sleeping, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't switch off. You know, I'm interested in exploring something in my mind. I love contemplating. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I love exploring and learning more and getting better and more succinct, etc., etc. You know, I just can't stop thinking about stuff, and I want to fill in all the blanks so that there is something for people to go on. You know, so I've got a complete picture to sort of hand over, because this has been known before and it's nothing new. Therefore, I don't feel like I'm going to be shocking anything in the world, if you see what I mean.
Right,
You
right.
know, um, I don't know what else you want to look at. I just wanted to point out.
I've got a question for Menza. Well, maybe we'll just finish up with a bunch of questions, and
Yeah.
and maybe I'll try to nail you down on the next session we can have.
Okay. Yeah.
Question from Aaron Johnson. She asks, does Phil believe there are many ways to achieve enlightenment? Sometimes she struggles with the complexity of all of this and feels that we may reach it by simpler means.
Yeah, I can see what she's saying. In my opinion, gaining this situation was the simplicity of being honest with myself and looking to understand reality. That's all it was for me. So all this complication about you need to practice this and practice your mental visualization. Well, it's far better for you to have something to think about naturally that you're interested in, and that will automatically develop your mental ability to picture things in your mind and play with them and question them and challenge them, and just play around contemplating while you're on your own without any disturbances. For me, that's really what it was all about. It was about gaining understanding through my own contemplation and chewing over all these different things. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know the most important things, the gems of information, the stuff that really matters. There's a lot of extraneous information. So if somebody says you need to achieve enlightenment through the path of yoga, well, I'd never done yoga and I got there. So you don't need to do yoga necessarily, but it certainly helps. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying I didn't do it. I went the way of sattva, contemplation, mentally gaining understanding by chewing things over in my own head. And to me, it's that simple. Really that simple. And
Yeah, I think before you commented that Mother Teresa, something about Mother Teresa and how she did well all her whole life for everybody else. And what was your opinion on that, on her again?
Right. That refers to a reference in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says there are three paths. There are three major paths, and I think that's because of the gunas, the aspects of beings. You have mentality, you have your heart, and you have your body. If you do lots of physical work, and I always put my heart and soul into everything I do physically, God is watching you, all the time. He's watching to see how you are treating yourself and what you are doing to develop yourself towards your own perfection. That's what he's watching for. And when you start making your way towards this, when you have that attitude that you want to achieve this, you are going to be prompted and helped in little ways that you don't realize. Sorry, I've just lost track of what we were saying.
Synchronicities. You were talking about how many paths there were to enlightenment.
That's right. So because personally I followed the path of sattva, I don't have the experience of following the path of the heart. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very emotional as a person, but I realized that my head was more rational than my heart. So I went with my head because I like the idea of reason. The heart can lose track of reason when you only focus on the heart. That's why I think most people who follow the path of the heart don't see the cloud. They don't find ascension because they don't challenge their own beliefs. If you follow too much on your emotion, your passions, and your intuition, without reckoning it with automatic reality, as it were, the nature of real truth that doesn't care what you think or what you feel, if you reckon it with that, you will develop towards it. So I think it's a combination of the heart and the head if you're following the path of the heart, because you must reckon the heart with wisdom and sense. Yeah, I've heard lots of people, I've had conversations with people in the last couple of years where they are literally following the path of the heart, and they think you have to love everybody all the time, to the point of being foolish about it and just wasting themselves on others, you know?
Yep. For people that will suck your emotion out of you like a vampire, right?
Yeah, exactly. You become a source for them and you think you're helping them, but no, they're helping themselves to you. And if you don't have the sense to reckon that, you will allow that to occur, and people will walk all over you. So I feel as though the path of the heart is a very difficult one. You must reckon it with reality, you know. But then I don't know about it because I've not followed that path as far as I'm concerned. I followed the path of sattva.
Right, but in the whole while you weren't doing harm on others. You were always looking
No,
out and paying it forward. I mean, right?
that's right. That's right. My whole philosophy was live and let live. You know, do not harm anyone. Do not harm anything. Why would you harm anything? There's no need. You know.
Right. I
There's
was a
just
deer hunter because I thought I had to be a deer hunter.
right. Okay.
I thought you were talking to me, man. That's just my guilt coming out, I guess. But to be honest with you, this year I couldn't kill a deer, and I had plenty of opportunities.
Uh-huh. Well, I see nothing wrong with hunting. You know, if it's a necessity to feed your family and all this sort of thing, it's
Yeah.
okay. The sages in the ancient past, people today are so flowery that they don't want to break any eggs. They want the omelet without breaking the eggs. It's a bit like that. So in the ancient past, even sages used to go hunting and they used to eat animals. Not all the time. They didn't gorge on them like we do today. You know, it's just here and there, but it was part of life and it's quite normal. It's okay. People in African tribes, when they kill an animal to eat them, they sit over the animal and they pray to it and they ask for forgiveness, you know, and all this sort of thing. There's a ritual involved with it. There's a lot of respect involved with it. You know, so there's different ways of seeing that.
Right. That's awesome. I had a question for you, and I lost it. That's why if I don't interrupt you while you're talking and be rude,
Yeah,
I'll forget what I'm thinking about.
I understand what you mean, man. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Just one last thing
yep.
about Genesis, just to show people, because it's been on screen all this time. They're probably wondering why I'm saying that the tree of good and evil and tree of life are these two things in the abyss. Well, what you're looking at is Eden. The Garden of Eden is described as the point of basically, it's like saying Nibiru. It's the point of crossing where heaven and earth meet. This is where heaven and earth meet at the light. The light is the halfway mark. It's the essence of both at the same time. So here is the Garden of Eden, and there's no garden. There's no actual trees or grass or anything that we would associate with a garden, and yet it is the Garden of Eden in the Book of Genesis, because it specifically describes it as this place at the center of everything. And they're
Incredible though. My journey would not have started if I wouldn't have heard the word Nibiru, and now I am not kidding about that.
right.
5 years ago or so ago, that word triggered something in me that all of a sudden I started looking up, and that led me to here. You know.
Right. Yeah. There's a pointer in the right direction. Yeah. So here you're looking at it. This is Nibiru, yeah, the point of all the crossing of all things, where everything meets, the equinox, as it were. The reason the cosmos is a tree of good and evil is because you've got everything in the cosmos, you know, from one extreme to the other. There's good, there's evil. It's pretty obvious that's the case. And it is like a tree. The cosmos is like a tree that grows, you know. But a tree has a toroidal shape as well. So the cosmos goes through that process, and it appears inside it. The tree of life, of course, is the light, because that's the top of the tree of life, and it represents the tree of life by itself. It's as if it's the result of it. Therefore, it automatically contains the essence of the whole tree. You know?
Right.
Yeah. So.
And the tree of life is just symbolic of how creation itself works in the cycle, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's correct. That's right.
One more question. This question has been brought up several times to me, and I've kept promising to ask you. Now, you say this is achievable for everybody, but then people ask me, well, what about a schizophrenic? What about handicapped people? What about mentally retarded people? You know?
Somebody mentioned that a couple of interviews ago, and once again, there's a massive subject. There's a lot to say about it. Even if you know, if you see a Down syndrome person, right? You do not have Down syndrome, so you have no idea the freedom that person has in their thinking. It's only it's only their expression that comes across as something that you think, well, they're retarded. Their thinking must be as retarded as their physical expression, but there's a blockage to their physical expression that doesn't exist in their mind. Your mind is free, even if you're in a
we know they're more connected than us, right?
They can be more intuitive. Some of them can be very astute, I've noticed. In fact, I was standing in a supermarket about 4 or 5 months ago, and there was a Down syndrome couple in one of the aisles, right? And the female of the couple, as I approached her, she had an aura around her that was angelic.
Yeah, I've often gotten that feeling from people like that.
Yeah, it was immediately apparent to me that this is an angel in a human body.
Wow.
It doesn't matter there's a blockage, a physical blockage, or a problem in the brain. It's still an angel. Yeah.
And maybe that's why they're here, to project that, to see what they can do with it, right? I mean, I don't know.
Well, just bringing in that presence is going to have an effect on you automatically. But to extend the idea here, when we think of handicapped people or seemingly mentally retarded people, they have an opportunity to think as well, like we do, and they can chew things over that they're not going to talk about, you know, or they won't be able to put into words. Maybe you don't always have to be able to put things into words. Many of my thoughts I can't put into words, but they're going and they make sense to me. Yeah.
Right.
Not only that, but look at the simplicity of unifying duality. All you have to do is meet God, and there's the answer. That's the answer you need.
Simplicity.
It is very simple. When you meet God, you go, oh my God, I see, I understand. It's so simple. And it is simple. So 1 becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4. It's a very simple thing, you know. And when you have these insights, everything becomes simple, and you can't understand the complication of other people. It's because they don't realize the simplicity. So I don't feel as though mentally retarded people are always going to be those who can't achieve ascension. I think they may well be able to, but who around them is there to tell them about it in the first place?
Right.
Where are the teachers of ascension, the real teachers who have actually achieved it themselves? Show me them. Point them out to me. Prove
Look
that
in the mirror.
Well, here's one here, but I seem to be the only one. I don't understand that.
That's why I feel so floored and so honored to have you in my reality, man. I totally appreciate everything you bring and all your insight, dude. I mean,
thanks, man.
I'd be lost right now, in my opinion, if I wouldn't have met you, because I was lost.
Right.
And I knew something was, something inside me was telling me that there's something. And the moment I met you, or what came across your work, I was like, wow, this guy
Right.
gets it, and I don't see you lying to me at all. So,
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know how to explain that to people, but
Yeah.
maybe it's the faith, but I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
I hear
totally
you.
appreciate it, dude.
Thank you, man. Well, I appreciate hearing that. That I know that I'm actually useful to somebody else. My God, if I wasn't you, I just wouldn't talk. But yeah, I think that the lack. There's actually let me reiterate a line from a song by the band Rush. I actually heard it today. This song again, and the line in the song is, "How can anybody be enlightened when the truth is so poorly lit?" That to me sums up the world. That
Yes.
this world will tell you that nobody can know the truth and you're wasting your time. That is an ignorant thing to say.
Well, it's kind of a pessimistic way to look at life, too, is it not?
Absolutely. It's very pessimistic, and it's an expression of its own ignorance. That's all. And of course, as I mentioned at the start of this chat we're having now, that the concept that nobody can know the truth has come from, in my opinion, the fact that God is ineffable and unending, and therefore you'll never get to the end of him, so you won't ever know him truly. Intellectually thinking about this concept of infinity, that there's no end to it. But that's a person. So yes, you can know God as if you know a person, but you'll never know every aspect of God, because God is always new.
Well, the mountain grows ever higher as you climb it, right?
Right, but not necessarily. I mean, what I'm saying when I say God is ever new is that God is literally now, and now is always a new moment in a
Oh,
sense.
wow.
When I was the flame, when I was on fire with God, I recognized that God is always new every single moment. There's nothing old with God. It's just now and new, brand new all the time.
Oh,
Pristine.
wow.
Yeah, pristine, perfect. It's incredible. It is like, it's mind blowing. You
Is
know,
that what the word pleroma really means?
pleroma means fullness.
Oh, okay.
Fullness in the sense that there's nothing missing anymore. And that's absolutely correct. Heaven is full. You don't need anything else. Once you find heaven, you need nothing else. It's like
So you're
this saying.
essentially full of yourself.
Say again?
You're essentially full of yourself then.
No. You're full of you're full of spirit.
Right. But I mean,
Yeah,
heaven is you being full of yourself. That's just a contrived way of looking at it, I suppose.
yeah, it's a figure of speech. But in my mind, the fullness is that you are satisfied, you are satiated forever. You don't need anything else. And it's like finding a diamond in a field of mud. All you want is the diamond. You don't want the mud anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Sorry.
diamond fills you. It fills your wealth, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Dude, I can't believe that I'm still learning something as on the magnitude that I've learned today in this chat. And I
Mm.
appreciate you bringing these thoughts to my reality, and everybody in chat has stated the same thing. So, you know,
Wow.
I mean,
Right.
I'll read you back a few comments. It says, let's see. Phil would hate me constantly questioning everything. That's Miles. That's Miles' take. If you read the but Shannon Kling says much love. She says she loves you.
Oh,
Aaron says the same thing. Mr.
oh,
Menza says Phil has opened my eyes to so much. Phil
right.
says much love to all. Brandy, I wish none should perish, but become love instead. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And tell Phil we love him over and
Oh,
over again. So
oh, bless. I love you too.
you're appreciated.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate hearing that. I usually get abused online. I've been abused for 10 years online continuously. Yeah, like insulted, abused. they try to make you feel like you're nothing, and you should feel terrible about yourself, but they don't seem to realize that I actually laugh at all that now. I just don't take it seriously anymore.
Right. That's where I need to learn and to be a little more thick-skinned or accepting of others' uneducated or uninformed opinions of certain things.
If you can recognize that nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
You can just shrug it off and like water off a duck's back. It doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
Yeah. I know how you feel.
Hey man, if anytime you want to come back and discuss this, if you have your schedule regular and you want to set a time aside, you just let me know.
Yeah. It's not always convenient to set a time that is fixed, as it were, because things have been chopping and changing, like in my personal life.
Okay.
Cool. I get emails.
Are you getting married?
We haven't thought about marriage. We're trying to have a baby at the moment.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome, dude.
Yeah, for the first time ever. But we don't talk about marriage. We're not traditional like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not religious, but religiously based or anything like that. We don't.
You know how funny that sounds coming from you, man. We're not
Yeah.
That's just, people are like, what?
Yeah, I'm not religious.
What I'm getting at there, right?
I'm not religious at all. Yeah, bizarre.
That's quite funny and quite poignant, actually.
Yeah, it's almost ironic.
It is. I didn't want to say ironic, but yeah, it is pretty much. It sounds like an oxymoron when you say that. But
yeah, I know. Yeah, but that's the way it is.
It's beautiful, man. That's beautiful. Good luck with that, because kids are wonderful.
Great. Okay. Oh, I can't wait. Really, I know. I enjoyed my own childhood. My dad was good with us when we were kids. He's kind of like a kid himself, so it was great fun. And I'll probably be the same.
I am 100% confident that I think you'd be a great father, dude. So.
Oh, thank you, man. Cheers. Yeah, I've never done it before. Never been a dad before. And I'm nearly 50. My God.
Wow.
Yeah.
You don't look a day over 21, man. All right, brother. Yeah, till the next talk, man. I appreciate it, and everybody in the chat, they appreciate you as much as I do, brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate you too. Thank you, and everyone being there. It's so nice to have people to listen to what we're saying.
Oh yeah, definitely, and in my opinion, everybody's stuck on the negative, and I think the only way we can make the change happen is on an individual level first, and it'll just keep snowballing, right? Is that how you feel too?
Yeah, basically, yeah. You kind of, in a way, in that sense, you've got to kind of shut the world out and just get on with your own internal development. Yeah, and yeah, in a way.
Yeah. Good.
Otherwise, Otherwise, if you start, thrashing around in the world and wanting to make it what you want it to be, it will never be what you want it to be, and it's just a complete waste of time.
Thank you. I couldn't put it ever more eloquently or ever more simpler than how you just stated it. That was wonderful.
Right. Okay.
Because I try to articulate what you just said to people, and it's like it always ends up in the wrong spot, and people digging in the sand, and drawing the line, and so. Yeah.
How do you say it? Yeah.
Right. Because if people feel like you're attacking their belief system.
That's right. Yeah.
But hey, you have a good night, brother, and thank you very much. Keep in touch. I'll email you. I don't know. Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Okay, man. We'll speak soon. Don't worry. Yeah.
Good luck with that baby thing, brother.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, and if nothing else, practice makes perfect, and it's fun, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. All that. No problem.
All right, bud.
All right. Take care, man. Thank you, Steve. Brother. Have a good night.
You too, bud. Bye.
Goodbye.
Hey, everybody in chat. Thank you very much for joining me. I want to just plainly say I appreciate every one of you guys, and Phil feels the same way. So you guys have a good evening. 6 degrees.